Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Moan. We're here today with a little Star Citizen discussion. I wanted to talk about spaceships. Spaceships, starships, ships that go into space, for the most part. Not just mine, but yours. And that's really the big thing about Star Citizen, isn't it? That the way that they've decided to allow people to support the game is it turned into almost like collecting toys, like collecting collectibles for a lot of people. People buy every single ship because they look at it as like, you know, a virtual spaceship that rather than just sitting on their desk like a physical one, they can actually then go into a world and fly it. Chris Roberts said something very similar to that in regards to people buying the ships, and I completely agree. You know, I mean, I think there is still an air of concern that I will always have with the fact that people who obviously can't afford to spend the money on Star Citizen are doing that, but guess what? That's not my decision to be made. As I've always said, if people want to spend their hard-earned money, they can spend on whatever the hell they want, and no one should be able to change their decision on that. I do completely agree, however, with the concept of collecting these gorgeous ships. When you look at the visual quality, the texture work, and just the overall design of the ships that are being put inside of Star Citizen, you can see why people are more than happy to drop $500, $1,000 on a virtual spaceship. It sounds crazy, and I can't say that I would personally drop that much money, but I can see why you would if you could afford to do so. So let's talk about the ships that I currently own, the ships that I have owned, and then you guys can feel free to go ahead and, as always, share down in the comment section below what ships you own and why you've decided to purchase those said ships. So it all started off in the very early days of Star Citizen for me when I got my hands on a base package. I believe it was back in September of 2013. I grabbed an Aurora LN and, you know, just the starter package. Just wanted to get my hands on the game and support them. It was after their Kickstarter, and I was happy just to have a spaceship in the game. It sat in the hangar for a very, very long time. Come January 2014, the beginning of that year, I was actually gifted an Avenger by my parents for my birthday because my mom's just awesome like that, and she knows about just about all the games that I play and the things that I do on YouTube, and she knew that I was looking at the Avenger, and she threw me the cash to go ahead and upgrade to that. Well, actually, I just purchased it as an addition to my Aurora LN, so that was very excited indeed. You know, I had the ship of my dreams, and I made a bunch of cool videos about what I would do with the Avenger moving in the future, the sorts of bounty hunting adventures that I would go on. Meanwhile, we're still sitting in the hangar. A lot of time passes, and I didn't purchase any other ship in-game for a very, very long time, until the Jean Scout went on sale once again, I believe it was like late last year, and I didn't actually have the money for it. And I was, you know, more than willing at the time to give CIG a little bit more cash, you know, to make this game work. And also there was sort of there was a part of me that really wanted like that ship. I don't know why. There's sort of this mystique about the idea of the alien ships. So I melted down my Avenger, and then a friend actually loaned me the money. Ridiculous, right? A cool friend from Praxis, he knows who he is, loaned me the cash to buy that ship, and I paid him back within the next week. And so that sat in my theoretical hangar for quite some time. At this point, we were out playing Arena Commander, but I hadn't actually been able to fly that ship, and no one can fly that ship to this day. And that was why, not too recently, I melted it down to purchase the Gladiator. At this point, I already had upgraded my Aurora LN back to an Avenger, spent a little bit of cash there. I really don't know the numbers, but if somebody feels like figuring out just how much I've spent, you can go ahead and do that and let me know. It's got to be at least, you know, 200 bucks now. And then last but not least was the M50, which was also gifted to me by the same person. He knows exactly who he is. An M50 with LTI, actually. It was gifted to me by the same person. I had that for some time, you know, I flew it, I raced it, and then when the Gladius came out, you know, he actually was the one who said to me, why don't you just trade it in, dude? Like, racing's really far away, and you know, you can have a ship that you really want that'll be more useful in Arena Commander and in the early days of Star Citizen, and that was the Gladius. So I did. I did a clean swap for that to the Gladius. I just melted it down and grabbed the Gladius, and that was that, and that's how I ended up with the Avenger, the Gladius, and the Gladiator all in my hangar. And if I had to say what I like about each of those ships the most, I guess I'd start with the Avenger. You guys have probably heard me talk about it endlessly, but there's just something about that retro design that ship has. We know it's an older style, police, military style ship, but it reminds me very much of the Space Shuttle. And I just like the curves on it. I like the sort of rear lighting on the tail wings. And I love the idea that you could have like a small crew of 2, maybe 3, 4 guys in the back for, you know, like sort of like quick insertions of a small tactical team. And also, of course, the bounty hunting possibilities with a ship of that size. You could place 4 people in the back cells that you've all bounty hunted and just keep them on ice until you get back to the base and turn them in for that fat reward. But apart from that, that ship has always just been very appealing. The nose cannon, to me, is just a really intimidating thing. It's just sort of something about that, and I think that's why I fell in love with the Gladius so much, because the Gladius, it has that same nose cannon, but its styling very much turns to the sort of classic fighter jet approach, and I love the idea of old, you know, like, like, Desert Storm. Even Desert Storm, you know, they still had a few jets that were flying nose cannons, but at that point missiles were becoming a big thing. But that's what I like about the Gladius, the idea that it's still kind of retro. It's not just all about missiles and high-tech gunnery. You have that nose cannon for the wet work, and there's just something really appealing about that ship. Its design, it's so sharp, and it looks as agile as it actually is, and it's easy to fall in love with that ship. Very, very exciting, this ship design for sure. And then you have the Gladiator, last but most definitely not least, my most recent purchase or meltdown swap, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that in my head, you know, in EVE Online, I'm training for Stealth Bomber. I've actually finished that up already. And so there's this really huge appeal to me, the idea of like small bombing ships that are focused on single target bombing. And the Gladiator is very much that ship, you know, with the huge torpedo bay. It's not nearly as big as the I forget the Retaliator, obviously, but still, you know, again, small bombing, the idea of like hitting a Cutlass, or, you know, maybe even an Idris with that thing. Sorry, not an Idris, a Constellation, a Connie with that thing, you know, that's just like hiding in the rocks, systems all down, engines off, everything cold, sitting among the asteroids. Constellation comes floating in, maybe it's, you know, part of a mining operation, it's a backup ship, or maybe it just has a crew that's looking for some place to set up a small base of operations. You kind of come out of the air, hit the engines first, keep a small heat signature, track them, and just let loose like 2 torpedoes right into the top and cut that thing in half. Yeah. The idea of that is very, very appealing and very exciting, and that was why I was like, I need that ship. It also resembles the Hornet very much, which I like the Hornet. They are 2 anvil ships, and you could tell that the Gladiator, it was just kind of like a larger ship based off the Hornet. There's just, I don't know, there's an appeal to it. People always ask me, you know, do you think this company makes better ships? Does Anvil make better ships? Does Origin make better ships? And to me, they all have their own, just, you know, elements of beauty and design. I like them all for different reasons. There's very few ships that I don't like visually. I mean, if I had to pick one that I'm not a huge fan of, it would probably be the Constellation. I feel like that ship, part of it to me is like, it does have a bit of character. I start to think of sort of like 30,000 Leagues Under the Sea with that huge front glass window. But then the rest of the ship, I kind of just lose it. You know, I don't know what it is about that ship, but I don't love it nearly as much as everyone else does. And I know that's like blasphemy, but you know, other than that, every other ship just kind of has its own special characteristics that makes it, you know, worth striving for at some point when the full game goes live, or perhaps striving for right now by pulling money out of your wallet, whatever you choose to do. So be sure to share all of your ships down in the comment section below. Hey, there's no character limit anymore, so if you've got 40 ships, feel free to let us know why you bought them, and for what reasons you were excited to have them in your hangar, and, you know, possibly for what reasons you're excited to fly them moving into the future of Star Citizen. All of that and more down in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one.